This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
The Taliban spokesman, Qari Yusuf Ahmad, asked the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, given his South Korean background, to press both the Afghani and Korean governments to accept the Taliban's demands and put an end to the hostages crisis. This comes amidst continued negotiations to release the remaining hostages after the Taliban killed one of them last night.
صلوات على الرهينة المقتولة وعلى المتبقين أحياء حتى الآن.
Prayers go out for the martyred hostage and those who remain under the Taliban's grip. After 7 days of his kidnapping, the 42-year-old Bae Hyun-kyu was found in Ghazi with 10 bullet holes in his body. As the 8th day draws in, the families of the 22 South Korean hostages wait patiently for any new developments. The government's continued promises of a speedy and peaceful return of the hostages does not seem to give them any comfort, and some are not hesitant to blame the United States for the problems bestowed on the Koreans.
The United States occupied Afghanistan and continues to lead the war. The Korean forces joined them in the name of the war on terrorism. This is the main reason that led to the current crisis, and the Taliban must immediately free the hostages without harming them.
This woman is not the only one who believes this.
They
believe that their demands for the withdrawal of the foreign forces from Afghanistan might convince the Taliban to free the hostages. The South Korean envoy in Kabul wants to put a peaceful end to this crisis, and South Korea's president has asked his Afghan counterpart to refrain from using violence to free the hostages. Meanwhile, the Taliban spokesman guaranteed by phone that the remaining hostages are alive and well.
The government gave us hope that we might be able to reach a peaceful solution. The hostages are alive and well. I'm in direct contact with the Mujahideen and will keep you posted about any new developments in the negotiations.
It seems that this time the Taliban intends to hold on to the hostages who are awaiting their unknown fate. They have warned the Afghan government that delays in meeting their demands, including the release of 23 Taliban prisoners, might cost the Koreans their lives. With delicate care, the Koreans await news about their relatives and friends that unfortunately became a part of the struggle between a toppled movement and the Afghan government.
Five police officers were killed today in Baghdad when an explosive device exploded in the Dahara area. Yesterday, 2 suicide operations exploded amidst hundreds of Iraqis who went to the streets to celebrate the success of the Iraqi national team, who will go into the final round of the Asian Cup. 50 people were killed and 90 others were injured, including children. The 2 suicide explosions cast a shadow on the rare moments of happiness in the daily lives of Iraqis. This happiness was not caused by the alleged democracy, which was brought to the land of the 2 rivers by tanks, and which never materialized due to the political differences and sectarian strife. Rather, these rare moments of happiness were made possible by 11 soccer players. On the Iraqi national team, sectarian, religious, and ethnic differences are not important. All team members work together to raise Iraq's flag, and they have unintentionally succeeded where politicians have failed. They have managed to unite all Iraqis regardless of their differences. Abdel Al-Latif Omar reports.
This is how enthusiastic the Iraqis have been since the beginning of the Asia Soccer Cup. All Iraqis went to watch how their national team does in the soccer match. The team members represent all the different Iraqi sectarian and ethnic groups. Sunni, Shiite, Kurdish and Christian team members all play together and raise the Iraqi flag. Sectarian and ethnic divisions which have caused Iraq's misery disappear in the soccer field, thus allowing Iraqis to rejoice. The Iraqi streets were an example of how Iraqis can unite.
I'm extremely happy. This is a victory for the Iraqi team and all of Iraq. God willing, the happiness will last.
Whoever watches these celebrations clearly notices that the rejoicing people could care less about the ethnicity or the religion of others around them. All Iraqis were united in the streets, just like they were once before, united in their love for Iraq.
This is a happy occasion for Iraq. A happier occasion will be when the occupation forces are expelled from Iraq, so we will be victorious forever.
Even the Iraqis who fled from the ongoing war found a temporary relief in the victory of their national team from the political and security breakdown in their country and went to the streets holding in their hands everything that represented their pride in Iraq. A rare happy occasion that seldom happens these days in Iraq.
The number of doctors in the province of Wasit has increased after many of them relocated there due to the deteriorating security situation in and around the Iraqi capital.
The province of Wasit has received an unprecedented number of doctors who migrated to it from areas in and around Baghdad due to the deteriorating security situation. This news has led to an increase in the number of private clinics and pharmacies in Wasit. In addition, the number of residents who regularly see a doctor rose sharply despite the rising cost of healthcare and medicine.
Iraqi doctors continue to relocate from hot spots, leaving behind a medical vacuum in the areas they've migrated from. They bring to the new provinces highly specialized and important medical care. The residents here used to travel to Baghdad and other provinces for certain treatments.
Wasit, which has been swarmed with medical offices, is running out of commercial areas to accommodate the large influx of doctors. In addition, it is rather difficult to find investors who are willing to fund new construction projects to help this sector. Some doctors also refuse to move out of their offices, which are not adequate for medical care.
Healthcare has become very costly. The cost of medical exams and medicine is also high. Many residents who don't receive good services at the general hospital turn to private medical clinics for treatment.
We want the patients to receive the best care in a good facility. This place is crowded and it is not adequate for medical care. It is very hard to register and be seen by a doctor due to the large number of patients. We sometimes wait for 1 or 2 hours just to be seen by a doctor. We go there to get well and not to get worse.
The rise in the number of private clinics in Wasit was met by yet another increase in the number of residents who regularly see a doctor. This news indicates that the standard of living in the province of Wasit has indeed improved despite the rising costs of medical care and medicine.
The Israeli occupation army carried out an incursion in the Gaza Valley region to the southeast of Gaza City, backed by a number of military vehicles and bulldozers, as well as surveillance planes. The special forces, which took up positions on the rooftops of some homes, arrested many citizens, and their bulldozers destroyed property and uprooted agricultural lands.
The residents of the agricultural Gaza Valley village, which is located southeast of Gaza City, woke up early this morning to the sound of Israeli tanks carrying out incursions in the region to provide cover for the military bulldozers, which uprooted lemon and almond trees, one of the main economic resources of the Palestinians. The Palestinians rely on these trees to make a living and love them like they were their own children. The Israeli Special Forces occupied a number of Palestinian homes and turned them into sniper positions. They also arrested residents from the area.
The trees were uprooted and they took control of the houses. They gathered all the children and put them into the rooms. The houses were raided and they took the people there. All the young men were placed inside the city council building and the cultural council. The lemon orchards were uprooted. Everything. They didn't leave anything, as you can see.
There is fear. Everyone is afraid.
The resistance fighters deployed into the fields in order to monitor the tank movements and launched a number of anti-tank missiles. Observers say that this Israeli incursion, which is being carried out in border areas far away from crowded residential centers, are intended to incite and take the pulse of the resistance reaction and to know its capabilities. This incursion may be paving the way for more wide-scale incursions of other cities in the Gaza Strip, as has been hinted by some military and political officials in the occupation country.
This situation was created by the Zionist enemy in the Gaza Strip to confuse the Palestinian resistance and to know its capabilities and strike its forces. If the enemy wants to make an incursion in the Gaza Strip, the resistance here is completely prepared to confront the Zionist enemy with all its power and capabilities. We do not possess anything except to defend our people, our family, our land, and our dignity.
These partial Israeli limited incursions are destroying Palestinian property. It comes amidst talk about many Israeli scenarios of an incursion into the Gaza Strip. The resistance has confirmed that it is prepared to face any Israeli aggression and confront it.
And staying with the diplomatic front, and the future of Israel is not in the West Bank. That's the message from U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. In an interview with Al-Hura television, Rice said Israel needed to focus on building a strong Israeli state in places like the Negev and Galilee. The American diplomat said Israel understands that it has obligations that need to be met. She also said there is much that can be done by moderate Arab states to support the peace process. And amidst this flurry of diplomatic activity and talk of peace initiatives, I'm joined now in the studio by a spokesman for Israel's diplomatic community, Mark Regev with the Foreign Ministry. Mark, thanks for coming in this evening.
Always a pleasure.
Today, Mahmoud Abbas gave an interview to Ma'ariv newspaper, and he said that he was assured personally by George Bush and also by Condoleezza Rice that there would be a final status agreement next year. Prime Minister Olmert also is inclined toward that. Realistically, are we looking at a final status agreement in the very near future?
I don't know. I do know the following, that Israel wants to move ahead in the peace process, and it all depends on the Palestinian side, their ability to deliver. If they can move ahead with the necessary reforms in accordance with the roadmap, we could be at final status talks sooner than later. But I'd say it would be a mistake to jump over those necessary first stages that we have to go through. Ultimately, Abu Mazen was elected on a platform of one authority, one law, one gun. And we've started only now to see movement in that direction. I hope he follows through, and I hope we can move ahead with him to, eventually, final status talks.
The old Saudi peace initiative, as it was called several years ago, is being revived. Now they just call it the Arab Initiative. What are the major problems that Israel has with this initiative?
Well, the first thing is we see the initiative positively. This is the Arab world, the Arab League, that organization that represents the 22 Arab governments, saying they believe in peace with Israel. They believe when peace comes, there will be normalization and recognition with Israel. That's important. That's an important counter message from the hateful and extremist message that comes out of Iran, or the extremism that people like Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Hezbollah represent. And so we see this as positive. We want to engage with the Arab world on the basis of the initiative. We had yesterday my foreign minister. She met with the two foreign ministers, the foreign minister of Jordan and the foreign minister of Egypt. And ultimately, it was a historic visit. We have never in the past had a delegation here visiting our country under the auspices of the Arab League. In the past, the Arab League believed in boycotting in Israel. They opposed any dialogue with Israel. They opposed contact with Israel. Now this delegation came under the auspices of the League, and it's the beginning of a change. I hope that this historic opportunity won't be wasted.
In other news from the Palestinian territories, 3 people, including a prominent Islamic Jihad leader, have been killed by an Israeli airstrike in central Gaza. The attack blew up a car in what appears to be a targeted killing. Islamic Jihad saying 3 of its senior commanders, including the head of its military wing in the Gaza Strip, died in the attack. The Israeli army has confirmed the airstrike. Now, it was touted as a step towards peace, removing Jewish settlers from Gaza, but a new poll shows that 59% of Israelis believe that the Gaza withdrawal was a mistake. And as for the West Bank, where 250,000 Israelis live, only 18% of the public supports evacuating those settlements. While the UN Security Council says the West Bank developments have no legal validity, the expansion continues. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher reports.
On a small hill on the outskirts of Ramallah, they're trying to build a village. This is an outpost of the nearby Bet El Israeli settlement on the West Bank. No more than a one-room building and a religious bathhouse, it's an attempt to gain more land for the settlement, more land that belongs to the Palestinians.
Yeah, it seems to me...
We followed Hagit Ofran of the Peace Now group as she investigated rumours of this illegal expansion of an illegal settlement.
The interest of the State of Israel is to go out, to pull out from the territories and demolish or to leave all the settlements. This is the interest of the State of Israel. And this is why I'm trying to fight against the building of settlements.
Then suddenly one of the local men appears. We ask him what the building is, and he tells us it's a synagogue which is used every Saturday. There's a permanent presence here, he says. 40 days ago we came. And he leaves as suddenly as he arrived, heading back over the hill to the settlement. From these very modest beginnings, the Israeli settlers could start to expand. They could put in roads, houses, schools, power lines, sewage. And suddenly, from just 2 shacks, this becomes an established settlement. And they even give it a name. They call it the Hill of Light.
Settlements and peace are 2 parallels that cannot meet. The Israelis must make the choice. Settlements or peace. They cannot have both.
30 kilometers south of Ramallah, near the settlement of Efrat, they're marching. Here, Jewish groups are planning to take over a hill to stake their claim to the land. Since the international roadmap to peace, the Israeli government froze the expansion of current settlements. That's why the border police are here to stop them. So can I ask you why you came here today?
The land of Israel, the land of Eretz Israel, that's what we're here for.
And how do you feel about the way you're now being treated?
Well, they haven't actually used any violence against me. This is civil disobedience, and it's being treated as such so far, and I hope it stays that way.
The land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. We do not have to apologize for this, and we don't apologize for this. Givat Eitam is the 8th hill of Efrat. 20 years ago, it was designated in the original municipal boundaries of Efrat. We have every right to naturally expand within our own city.
These marches have been more frequent since Israel pulled out of its Gaza settlements 2 years ago. The people will stay here until they're moved on by the police, but they'll be back as long as the politicians remain paralysed on making a decision on what the future here should look like. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, Efrat.
front, Lebanese army troops unleashed barrages of artillery and tank shells at the Nahr al-Barid camp. The soldiers, meanwhile, continue to push their way deeper into the camp, seizing weapons and other military equipment from the tunnels dug by Fatah al-Islam militants. Here's the details.
Intense clashes today between the Lebanese army and Fatah al-Islam were ongoing at the Nahr al-Barid camp. The army is pounding the remaining militants with heavy artillery and long-range missiles in the northeastern sector of the camp. The army advanced further and controlled several positions, buildings and shelters where the militants were holed up. Direct and small distance clashes were witnessed, especially in the perimeters of the Magharba neighborhood. Several members of Fatah al-Islam were killed. Arms, explosives and ammunition were also found. An army spokesman, speaking on condition of anonymity, said that the army had been advancing slowly but surely. He added that the Islamists have no option but to surrender or face a fight to the end. Lebanese newspapers reported that there is a widespread hope that the fighting could end by August 1st, which is to coincide with the celebration of the country's Army Day. But troops were being hampered in their bid to end the standoff by landmines and booby traps strewn throughout the camp by militants. Through loudspeakers, the army had urged the Islamists on a daily basis to surrender, but has yet to receive a response. The army spokesman said that there are estimated 27 women and 42 children inside the camp. Meanwhile, Lebanon's top military magistrate, Rashid Mizher, issued formal arrest warrants against 5 Fatah al-Islam militants after charging them with involvement in terrorist acts and possession, as well as the use of weapons and explosives. Court officials said yesterday that the 5 whose nationalities were not disclosed are already in police custody, but the warrants help justify their continued detention. The exact number of Fatah al-Islam militants arrested since the group began its clashes with the army on May 20th has not been disclosed.
Back in Beirut, a soldier serving with the UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon was killed in an explosion on Wednesday during demining operations in the south of the country. The soldier died while clearing unexploded ordnance with an engineering team in a village south of the village of Shamman, near the port city of Tyre. The soldier's death brings to 10 the number of UN peacekeepers who have died in Lebanon since the start of the year.
The case of the leftist Moroccan, Al-Mahdi bin Baraka, whose fate has been unknown since he disappeared from the French capital Paris in October 1965, the weekly French journal L'Express published a story based on a Czech historian and journalist who claimed that Al-Mahdi bin Baraka was an agent for the Czech intelligence agency. This report by Adil Al-Zubairi.
A fact. Ben Barka was an agent for Eastern Europe. The French weekly journal chose this headline for the cover story for its first issue of July 2007. L'Express devoted 8 pages to discuss Ben Barka, claiming that he was the sheikh who used to go to the Czech capital, Prague, with top-secret information after he'd agreed to collaborate with the Czech government. This according to Peter Deck, a Czech historian and journalist.
This is an intended fabrication. There are people who want to ruin his image, especially those from France. There are also attempts to taint all the historical symbols in the Arab world, not only in Morocco. Ben Barka is one of these symbols.
The Express portrayal of Ben Barka as a spy sparked a wave of rejection and anger from Moroccan human rights activists and politicians, who were in a consensus that what the French journal published could not possibly be true. The Moroccan press reacted to the story, which taints the reputation of the most famous leftist in the political history of Morocco, a man who had friendly relationships with world leaders, including Cuba's Fidel Castro and Egypt's Jamal Abdel Nasser.
What the French paper L'Express published in its July 15th issue taints the collective memory of Morocco, the Arab world, Africa, and the Third World about him.
المغربية بالخصوص والمغاربية والعربية والإفريقية والعالم ثالثية.
Commenting on the case, the family of Ben Barka, who live in France, say that what was published was false and fabricated. The family was also surprised by the motives behind the story. The family renewed its call to find out the truth about the disappearance of Ben Barka. The Al-Mehdi Ben Barka story that was published by Al-Express Journal was strongly rejected and condemned in Morocco. The family considers the situation as causing it harm. Adil Al-Zubari, Al-Arabiya, Rabat.
عادل الزبيري العربية الرباط.
ملاحظات دكتور كمال الهلباوي أستاذ شكري مجولي
Professor Shukri Al-Majdari, can we say that the Muslims have a problem because they do not have specific standards pertaining to who can or cannot issue fatwas? Many Muslim groups have their own sheikhs who claim the right to issue fatwas. They can declare people infidels or believers and justify the killings of children and women. Do existing Muslim institutions discuss these problems? Are there discussions about who can be considered as a good Muslim and what constitutes a good fatwa?
من هو المسلم الجيد؟ من هو الشيخ الجيد؟ من هو المفتي الجيد؟ ما هي الفتوى الجيدة؟
لا شك أنك أصبت كبد الحق. في حقيقة خلال هذه السنوات الماضية فيه تسيب.
Without a doubt, you hit the nail on the head. During the past years, there has been a state of chaos. Several unqualified individuals have given themselves the right to issue fatwas, and they say whatever they want. They are not guided by any rules. Thus, Sheikh Yusuf al-Qardawi met with a group of scholars and decided to establish the International Union of Muslim Scholars, which will function as the main Sunni religious authority. I would like to point out the difference between us and the Shiites. The Shiites have an advantage over the Sunnis because they have a sole religious authority which they do not deviate from. In contrast, the Sunnis live in a state of chaos which is dangerous and fatal. For example, more than 200,000 people were killed in Algeria as a result of un-Islamic and unrealistic fatwas.
أكثر من 200,000 قتيل ببعض الفتاوى التي بعيدة عن فقه الشرع وفقه الواقع.
When we talk about fatwas allowing different kinds of marriages like the misar and misaf and so on, does this make it look like Islam cannot deal with the phenomena of unmarried women? Some women have protested, saying that these fatwas show a lack of respect for women because they are allegedly designed to avoid problems created by the phenomena of unmarried women. To what extent can we argue that these fatwas are not disrespectful to women?
God forbid, the objective of Muslim scholars is not to degrade women. One of the main objectives of Islam is to elevate the woman's status. These fatwas were issued for the sake of women, and they stem from the respect and love for them. The fatwas do not violate any religious principles. The misar marriage complies with all religious principles, just like the traditional marriage.
Can you tell us briefly how the misar marriage differs from the traditional one?
The difference is that in the misar marriage, the spouses do not have to see each other every day. They can agree to see each other twice or 3 times a week. The woman tends to be more independent and has a separate home and income. The man is not financially obligated to his wife.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters, or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.